All right. Today I'm joined by John Betancourt, CEO of Humantelligence. Humantelligence helps teams work better together with AI-powered tools for collaboration, communication, and culture. Hi, John. Thanks for joining.
Hi, Anu. Thanks for having me.
How are you doing today?
Good.
Nice. Could you start by telling us what Humantelligence does and what your role looks like there?
Yeah, I'm the CEO and founder. We've been around for 10 years. Now, our current product, we've pivoted 3 times. Today, we are the first AI coach that's personalized to scale within workflows, talent management, leadership development, engagement, and team collaboration and communication. What does that really mean? If you saw what Grammarly did to the dictionary and thesaurus. Every person in the world had a dictionary and a thesaurus somewhere in their office or house. No one ever used it. It was content that was great that was not accessible. Grammarly put that into workflows, in Teams, in Word doc, in Excel, and they became worth $10 billion, but now everyone's using dictionary and thesaurus content. We did the same thing to psychometric and personality tests. There are $2 billion every year spent on a behavioral test or motivational test, these kind of personality tests that people do with leadership, um, you know, executives, leadership teams. They do team dynamic workshops, and everyone does these things. They take the test, and everybody has 5 or 6 in some folders, but they never look at them again. So we followed Grammarly's lead, and we put all those. You give a 10-minute test to, let's say, 5,000 employees on Monday morning in 10 minutes. And now all that knowledge and psychology is flowing through Teams, Outlook, Slack, Zoom, Microsoft Teams, video. And so now you can ask an AI coach personalized questions such as, how do I work with Anu? And it'll tell me, because it's going to read your profile, my profile, and tell me, why are Mary and I having conflict? Brr, you're in a virtual meeting. You can actually get tips on how to run the meeting or why someone's bugging you in the meeting. You can get scripts on motivational speeches for your new team. And so any question around how to become a better leader, how to engage an employee with the right projects, we solve for the first time all of the human capital challenges at companies that could never be solved before. And the underlying science is a psychometric instrument flowing through everyone's tools at work.
It's really interesting. So that means you don't have to tap on data without asking, but you get it directly from the employee.
Right. We're not crawling and reading people's emails to get an understanding of them. That is scary
Mm.
for employees, and probably, I don't think, ethical. And B, it's actually not accurate. IBM Watson and several companies tried for the last 10 years. You'll never get more than 15 or 20% understanding of someone's behaviors, and you won't even get to understand any of their values or motivators, let alone what energizes them in terms of work environment. So you really don't have enough data from scraping people's emails to really get great insights or answers.
It's very interesting. So I worked for a HR company as well, HR recruitment company, AI company from Berlin. So I was really fascinated and asked myself, was there a specific moment that gave you the idea for Humantelligence?
Yeah, the moment of failure every 3 years for the last 10 years, and just adapting and doing what the market told me to do. I'll elaborate on that. Um, I had done 15 years in corporate America, big companies, Procter& and Gamble, Reebok, Puma. Then I did software for 4 years at Siebel Systems, $8 million revenue company to $3 billion in 2 years. We went from 100 employees to 12,000 in 1 year. No company has ever done that in less than 5 years. So got blessed to work for Tom Siebel. Not an easy guy to work for, but and Bruce Cleveland and Pat House, but it was a fascinating experience. And then I did 15 years as a headhunter. So Humantelligence has been 10 years. When I say we pivoted 3 times, what do I mean? I launched Humantelligence in 2016 to solve the problem of hiring for better fit, whether you're trying to clone and find the exact same thing of high performers or have diversity of thought and complement for leadership teams. And so I found an assessment tool that we paid a lot of money for, multiple millions of dollars, because there's only about 20 that are validated, and you can't use tools that are not scientifically validated. This was validated for 50 years, this tool. So I buy it from the scientist, and I build a software platform in 2016. Took 2 years, and went to market in 2018. Humantelligence, talent fit for recruiting. So it was a recruiting tool to scale my brilliant ability to recruit. I was a top search consultant, a headhunter for Hydra Controls and Korn Ferry for 8 years and one of my own for 4 years. So that was like a 12, 13 year headhunting experience. And Humantelligence was my idea to do what I did for executives for the masses. You would test your high performing manufacturing workers versus your low, or your high performing call center agents versus your low. So any high volume role. And our system, because it measures more than any other tool, could more predictably tell you these are the 4 attributes, like 1 behavior, 2 motivators, 1 work energizer, for instance, of 28 things that explain high performers. So now just give it to all your 1,000 applicants and it'll tell you these are the 5 that you should hire. Saves time, gets rid of bias, and guarantees performance. We reduced turnover by 30%. We got to $2.5 million, 30 employees by year 4, 2020, entering 2020. We were going to go to like 5, 6 million. What happens? COVID. We lost everything. I had to fire everyone but 3 developers in Colombia where you outsource them because no one was buying any recruiting software. Everybody was firing people. So then it was a pivot into, well, what else can we use this great assessment for? Okay, let's use it for distributed teams. So version 2 was culture management. You could understand the culture of your team and the teams you work with cross-functionally, but you would have to log into a portal and you would get the reports of all these different people. A couple challenges with that. Portal-based content never works. People aren't going to stop in the middle of their day and go log in to read about somebody. And then you had to read and think and interpret. Today's environment, people don't have time to read, think, and interpret. They want to have a question, get an answer. And so in that second version of culture management, I saw Grammarly pop up and basically become a $10 billion company in a year and a half. How? Because they took content that nobody would go read and look at from portals and put it in workflow. So we then did version 3.0 of our company, AI for smarter collaboration. It was the slickest product. We basically integrated all the stuff from the portal through Outlook email. You write an email, push our button, it rewrites the email for you, for your audience, the way they like to read. You go into a calendar meeting in Outlook or Google Calendar, push the calendar meeting. Instead of just telling you who's in the meeting, in the actual frame of the calendar, it tells you the dynamics of the meeting and tips to make it more productive. No Copilot, no other tool in the world can do this because they don't know the psychology of the people in the meeting. Really slick second feature. Third feature of AI for smarter collaboration was in virtual meetings, Zoom, Cisco WebEx, and Microsoft Teams Virtual. You could actually see the dynamics of the meeting, click on any one person, understanding why they're butting heads with you. Great features. The problem is 2 years of trying to sell that, there is no chief collaboration officer. So we were just getting lots of interest, but never closing deals because no one owns and it has a mandate for collaboration at a company. Otherwise, you would have the title chief collaboration officer. So that was a challenge. Then there was no budget because of that. Then we would still get forward some trials, but then to trial it, IT had to get involved, security review for 8 months for big companies. And when we even passed those security reviews, then it was like, okay, how are you going to trial a product to work with people you don't know if we're talking to HR and they all know each other? They're not going to rewrite an email for a woman who sits next to them for the last 5 years. So you couldn't really trial it. So it was in February of 2024, the last and third pivot to get to where we are today, the AI coach called Askaura, which was basically, we saw, like I had seen Grammarly, and then I shifted and adapted to do what they did as part of our delivery. I saw ChatGPT, which, by the way, is the relaunch of a product from 25 years ago called Ask Jeeves, which is ironic, right? That guy went bankrupt and died homeless on the streets. And he had the greatest idea in history, just not the right technology at the time. So I saw this relaunch of Ask Jeeves via, also known as ChatGPT, go from 10 million to 1 billion people with no marketing, no sales, no training. Oh, and that was another challenge with the previous product. Training, you had to show people where the product was, and it was just hard to train them. And so I told my team in March of 2024, we need to do the delivery and the consumption of content like ChatGPT in workflow. And so that took a year. We launched it about 5 months ago, and now we're crushing it. And so this last company, or this last pivot, is 18 months, 6 months in market, and we're doing really great. And I hope that there's not many more major pivots because those have been exhausting.
Interesting. Yeah, I didn't knew about Ask Jeeves. Like doing my research for this interview, I heard you say that ChatGPT is a revival of Ask Jeeves, and then I looked into it and was fascinated. It
Can you imagine
Facing. Yeah.
the man who had the greatest invention in history, right? Because ChatGPT today is even more powerful than
Mm.
internet, ended up going bankrupt and dying homeless on the streets.
Yeah.
That's
It's actually sad. But he had the right
it's sad,
idea, but the wrong time to the wrong time where
right?
the tech.
It's the earliest great idea that never saw the light of day until 25 years later.
It's interesting. They also say like Google is a revival of an old idea with some kind of books.
Oh, interesting. Oh, that
Um,
yeah. I wouldn't be surprised, but some of these great ideas, um, like even Facebook was a
mm,
relaunch of a page called MySpace,
yeah,
and and even Salesforce, the biggest CRM company in the world, was just a relaunch of Siebel Systems, where I
yeah.
worked 5 years prior, 10 years prior.
But they did it a bit better. It's also like
And they
one of
did it
the
better.
earliest.
Technology was more ready to do it a different way.
Mm, yeah, I also heard early investor in Microsoft tell that Microsoft doesn't have many original ideas, but they're a great copier and improver of ideas that are already on the market, and they
Correct.
combine it in one enterprise solution, and big companies like that to buy it from one
Correct.
vendor.
One-stop shop is easier to buy than
Yeah,
best of breed, and that's the problem with a lot of AI companies.
yeah,
Our buyer is the head of HR. They're conservative. They're risk averse. They want to just buy from Workday, Ultimate Software, which is now UKG, or Success Factors. And so I've actually been told your product's amazing. We would love it, but we don't know who you are. We don't know Humantelligence. We only buy from big companies. We'll wait for those to have that
mm,
product. Which is like, no, they don't have a psychometric instrument. It's not just software what we do.
yeah,
So we have plenty of customers waiting. And part of the point of my original story about how did I come up with the idea? And I said failure. When I said failure, I meant these three pivots were because I failed in what I thought I was going to do and sell. And the market then told me, no, you got to do this. And so those turns, those pivots due to failure actually landed me to today, which I think is right now being very successful. And that's an important point for all you founders out there. 99% of founders, when they launch something, they think they have it in their
mm,
mind, what they're going to do. 99% of the time, 3, 4 years later, you are selling a product that's 80% different.
mm,
If you're successful, because you've adapted and learned from the market and you were right directionally, but to nail it, there's so much iteration. Imagine iterating and being agile every 2 weeks for 4 years. You're going to end up very, very different place than when you started.
hmm. Yeah, it's really fascinating and interesting. Also, the point you mentioned that they want to stick with like the bigger known brands. It's quite difficult because to get ahead, you have to try something different. And if you're still waiting for the same big companies for a solution, everybody's using the same solution and
Bingo. It's
taking
it's
a
it's a real
risk.
challenge for the industry, right? A lot of these
Yeah,
HR functional leaders, like they're missing out on what AI can do for them because they're
mm,
waiting for the Workdays and the success factors, but they're not going to come out with it.
yeah,
They don't have visionary innovation. They're stuck adapting a past product into AI. It's
hmm,
much better to just figure out how AI can do something completely new
yeah.
than trying to reconfigure and change something into AI.
Hmm. How would you tackle that if you're at a bigger company, a corporate, where they tell you that
That
they
is
wanna?
my biggest challenge today. One, I'm hiring a salesperson. I've been doing one of the sales. I am not convincing because I have not sold HR tech and I'm not known in the industry.
Mm,
And when it's a completely new product, I mean, if you're selling a product based on feature, benefits, or price, then a company might go with the best of breed because at least they
mhm,
know what you're selling. But when it comes to a new innovative product that they've never seen before, haven't even looked for before, I mean, with AI sprinkled throughout, I'm hiring a salesperson who has sold to these buyers who they already know, who they already trust. That'll get me the first 18 months of liftoff with about 20 or 30 major deals. And once you get that many large logos, then the other companies will follow, and then we're off to the races.
hmm. Very interesting point. Also, what's the hardest point about making all that pivots?
Well, one, I don't like change, just me, my personality. So I don't, for some CEOs who are true entrepreneurs, doing pivots, they actually think it's fun. I think
Mm,
like they actually are like, oh my God, a new wave going. That's very difficult for me. I don't like change. I like putting systems and structure operationally to scale something. So I'm more of a CEO that's great for going from 10 million to $1 billion.
Mhm.
And that's where I used to work. I was CEO of almost $1 billion business when I was 32. I ran Puma. So I'm used to the scale. I'm not used to the agility of every, lots of little fragmented changes and every 2 weeks doing something different. And that's exhausting for me. So that's for Juan Betancourt, the biggest challenge. Now, for me, the CEO of a company, I think it's, which I think other CEOs could relate to who are also entrepreneurial or not, who run startups. It's really this idea that if you have a completely new product and nobody knows about it and they're not looking for it, you can't do SEO because
Mhm.
SEO and intention to buy data is only for things that already people are looking for. It's like Tesla. Nobody was looking for an electric car in 1985. So if Tesla came out in 85, SEO would have made no sense, right?
Mhm.
Like, so we're in the same boat. Nobody's looking for the Grammarly of psychometric tools. Um, and so I think when you have the cure to cancer and you don't have a budget or marketing, how do you get people to know you? Like, it's actually really difficult
Mhm.
that I have this amazing product and nobody knows I exist.
It's tough. It's like all the big companies, like also Apple, nobody knew that they had a need for iPhone before they invented one. Um, Same with Tesla and many things. It's like it's easy for me if I do B2B lead generation. If there is a product, I can just a way I can just copy it. But if it's brand new, I read your site and it makes so much sense. I can see many companies profiting from it, but I would never
Every
look for it.
company, yeah, every company in the world will use a AI coach product, a
Yeah.
personalized AI coach for each employee. That will happen, guarantee. It's just like when you rode an Uber the first time, you knew that Uber was going to take over taxis. We are disintermediating the psychometric personality test market. Every individual from the CEO down to the bottom is going to have a personalized AI coach at work. Ask is the first one in the lead. Now, 4 other companies have raised 20 to $30 million each to tackle the same space.
Mm.
However, they don't use psychometrics in their tests. They're just AI coaches that are generic. So even though their
Mm.
products suck compared to ours, they have 40 million, $20 million to do marketing. So they're closing more deals than us today, even though they're late to the game and have an inferior product because they have budgets. And to your example of Apple and Tesla, they had money too. They got venture capital.
Mm.
And so unfortunately, they succeeded because they were able to market their way into people's minds, right? When Monday.com and even Grammarly came out, they put tens of millions of dollars in marketing. So every HR buyer, every buyer was like, okay, well, it must be safe. Look, they're everywhere. And so there's this false positive
Mm.
that people think, oh, just because I've seen it everywhere, it must be a safe company to buy from. I don't have that luxury because I've been around 10 years and with 3 pivots. And this is another point for founders after 3 pivots and going to 2 million, then 0, then 1 million, then 0, then 1 million, no VC firm in their right mind will ever invest in you. So people are like, oh, why don't you just go to VC? Because I'm 10 years in, 11 million raised, it's still only 600,000 in revenue from past products. Like no VC would touch me with a 10-foot pole. So I have no way of raising capital. So I'm no money, can't do marketing, with the cure to cancer, and nobody knows I exist. That's why the only way out of this is hiring a salesperson who can
Mm.
open those doors at a very efficient, cheap way, which is through relationships, and get those first 20 accounts in the next 18 months.
I think also at your case, it's different because you have quite an impressive CV with Harvard and Wharton, and also like the big brands you worked for. And
That still doesn't open doors. I write to 50 heads of HR on
yeah,
LinkedIn every week. I get maybe one response.
but is there something like from working at these big companies where you're like I could learn from that experience and use it for human intelligence?
Oh, okay, that's a different question. Yeah, so um, I think working at Procter& Gamble, Reebok, Puma, Decathlon, which is the largest sports retailer in the world, over 600,000 employees, um, you know, there's a lot that I learned because those are some of the best run companies in the world, but it's really applicable at a larger scale. Like at the scale we're at now with the number of employees we're at, there's not much applicable, right? Um, and all of those products have like 2, 3 year kind of like roadmaps.
Hmm.
right? Where you don't really change something for a long time. Software is so different, and with AI, and the changes so fast that, like, the key right now in our phase as a company is getting the product right.
Hmm.
Those companies, that it's not applicable to the product development cycle than for software SaaS, right? Um, and then selling to enterprise buyers and HR is very different than selling these consumer products I worked at. So a lot of the things aren't applicable. What would be applicable is, we do get to $3 million, how I scale a company with a great culture across
Hmm.
many countries, and have a consistency of operations around the world, that I'd be great at, getting us from like 2 to 10, 10 to $100 million.
Okay.
But we're just not there yet. And by the way, when I made a mistake when I started this company, I tried to put all that in. How to write emails, a certain language, a culture, only hiring people certain ways, having people run meetings a certain way, like the way all these big companies all do things, acronyms, defining how to. It was exhausting. My employees thought I was crazy, and we are spending 20% of our time focused on developing a culture, which we needed to focus on just getting a product out. And
Hmm.
so I basically scrapped everything of trying to build the future Procter & Gamble culture for a Humantelligence small startup. And I say, you know what? When I get a little bit more critical mass, then I'll worry about setting all that in. It's trying to set the perfect culture too early is actually a mistake. And a lot
Hmm.
of founders make that mistake.
Hmm. Meaning you have to evolve your own culture over time.
Yeah, and see where it fits, because there's a vision of what you want, and then there's a reality with the market. Because depending on the industry you're in, the product you make, and how the market gives you whiplash,
Hmm.
your culture will be a definition of both what you want it to be and what the market will define it to be,
Yeah.
right? The cultures you need in hospitality, in in fast casual restaurants versus pick up and go versus sit down restaurants versus high end, completely different. No matter what you
Hmm.
think you want your culture to be as a restaurant, it depends on which category restaurant you're dealing with,
Yeah.
right? Same thing with consumer products, or luxury products, right? And so I think culture is a combination of what the founder and management team want and what the market forces you to be to deliver the products and services that are ideal for
Hmm.
that environment.
Hmm. Do you think if you like hire somebody who has more experience in selling HR tech and get more critical mass, that you can try it again and want to try it again to get VC funding?
Oh
Or
yeah, great question. If we go from like this 600,000 we're at now, and I bring this person in through the relationships, we get to 2 to 3 million in 18 months. VC, despite the history of the company,
Mhm.
will throw millions of dollars at us, at a 20 multiple today with AI for HR tech. So yeah, that's one of my ways of scaling even faster, is once we get some traction with this new salesperson, to go back to VC and say, hey, now I can now this is what would happen if you put in 5 million or 10 million,
Mhm.
and hire a whole sales team.
Yeah, it does make sense if you've shown or prove that you can find a critical mass and it's working in practice. And how is the process going? As have you already found your
Yes,
salesperson?
I have the person, and we are negotiating the agreement. He'll start probably in January.
Huh, nice. I hope the best for the new sales role.
Thank you.
Also, I've seen. Did you work in some of the companies you mentioned? There was for Puma. I think you worked in Germany
Yep.
as well.
Yes, I was the basically chief operating officer, chief marketing officer, and worked both in Puma and the US. We were
Hmm.
opening the US from scratch. They had been bankrupt for 5 years. A guy named Jochen Zeitz was the youngest CEO in German history in the stock market traded companies. He was 31 when he took over, 36 when he hired me. I was 32, and I brought in Procter and Gamble structure, operations, acronyms, way of writing, strategic planning, all the things that I'm really good at from the Procter&
Hmm.
Gamble training. I put that in and hired a Procter& Gamble person for every region of the world, 5 continents. And they had basically went from 13,000 to 300 employees. We were only Germany. So but I was brought in once they had money and got credit from the banks again to relaunch, and I opened up the 7 G7, the 7 largest countries, and kind of relaunched Puma. And that story, everybody knows Puma was dead, and I
Hmm.
helped relaunch it and make it famous again. Probably the best brand turnaround in the last 50 years.
That's of course. But have you seen like a difference in work culture from Germany and the US?
I mean, there's different work culture in Bayern versus Berlin, right?
Yeah.
In Munich versus Berlin. So
Yeah.
there's different work cultures in the U.S. between Seattle, Miami, Washington, Texas, New York, Boston, right? So culture, even within a company, is different, right? The finance and accounting team have a completely different culture than your marketing team, and
Mm,
if they have the same values and work in the same ways in finance and accounting, one of those two functions will fail miserably. And so the mistake people make is to think that culture is monolithic across a company,
yeah.
across functions, and across countries. But yeah, you know, look, I worked in France for 5 years, Germany for 2 years, and I would say the culture in Germany is much closer to work culture in the US generally than the culture in France.
Mm, that makes sense.
Much closer, right? But that said, the culture of Germany and the US working is very different.
Yeah.
Right? So, you know, the way you lead in Germany is probably closer to the way you lead in the US than the way you lead in France,
Mm,
right? The way you develop people is different. I mean, France was I've worked in 5 countries for 22 years outside the US. And France by far was the most challenging place to work. I was very successful, probably one of the most successful foreigners ever to get to the highest echelon of a $10 billion company in history. Um, And so I was successful. I'm not saying complaining because I wasn't successful. Most people will criticize because they didn't succeed. I succeeded,
mhm,
but I can still assure you there's a reason why there are less foreigners working in France than any other country in Europe at executive level roles. They just can't do it. You have to
mm.
completely change who you are and how you lead and how you work.
Yeah, I do believe
I'm
that.
I'm I'm very adaptable and agile. I speak 5 languages like English. I've worked in and managed tens of thousands of people in those 5 languages. And I'm like a what is the creature that changes their skin? Chameleon? Like I can just drop me anywhere in the world and I can pick it up and figure it out and become aligned to the way those people think, work, and act. That's not a common trait of people.
No, I do believe that. So also like in my marketing space, I'm actively mentored by Michael Gardner, who is from Florida, and learned so many other marketing agency owners like from Europe, from Asia, and from the US. And US based founders are a bit different than everybody else. Like they're really hungry and have a great entrepreneurial mind. So
Yeah,
also with
I
this,
look, the US allows I mean, it sounds corny, but it really works. Like, and this is, it's not just, I'm an American. Like, I'm the American who hated the U.S. Like, I left at 22 because I hated the United States, and less the government and the structure. The system always I thought was amazing, best system in the world. But I didn't like the people. People always looked down on me because my name was Juan growing up.
mhm,
I changed it recently to John. And people thought I was trash. They thought I was uneducated, wetback Mexican across the border, and no one ever treated me with respect. So I was like, screw these people. I'm going to leave and never come back. And so I left to never come back to the US at 22. But after 20 years, I realized the only country in the world that you can succeed, even with a screwed up name and screwed up ethnicity, is the US, because no one in Switzerland becomes super rich, powerful if they're not truly Swiss. Nobody
mm,
from Germany becomes super rich and powerful unless they're actually German. Same with France. And so minorities and ethnic minorities all over the world never make it to be the most powerful, the most visionary people. And so the system works against them. So I realized that if I wanted to change the world, I had to go back to the US and just suck it up given my culture for social life. But I moved back to Miami where that is the least bad city to live in. They're really being Hispanic and Latin in Miami doesn't matter because I think 65% of the population is Latin. So nobody's going to judge me by my first name, Juan.
I find it really nice that you mentioned that because I really wanted to ask you. Like for me personally, I'm thinking about moving to the US with it, and I'm not sure because some guys say the American dream is over. Others say no, it's still great to start a business in the US. What's your point on that?
American dream is still alive. Like every 5 to 10 years, people think it's dying. And every 5 to 10 years, we prove that we're leading in every new space.
Mm,
Like who developed crypto? Who developed, generative AI,
yeah.
right? Who developed, quantum computing? Every single innovation every single year comes out of the US.
Mm.
And to get that innovation, you have to have thousands of people trying. The reason other countries don't have it is they have maybe 1 or 2 brilliant people in every country, but that's not enough momentum. You need
Yeah.
thousands of brilliant people trying to solve the future. And so it's does everyone make it? No, but God, there's so many opportunities. And if you have a great idea, capital will flow in. There is no capital constraints for innovation in the United States. That is not the case anywhere else in the world.
Hmm.
Like the dream exists. Like,
Yeah.
you know, now, can you become rich being a taxi driver like before? Can you become rich being a restaurant waiter like before? No. That's part of the dream. The middle class dream of living a really great life as a middle class person, that is gone. Right? Because life has just gotten much more expensive, and I think that's everywhere in the world.
Mm.
So I think our middle class is suffering more than the middle class in other countries today.
It's
But
also, sorry.
anyone who is self-employed as an entrepreneur,
Yeah.
these people are the happiest, most free people, having fulfillment and living the best quality of life in the world. So I'm telling you, the American dream is not dead for entrepreneurs. The American dream is dead for people who just want to chug along and do the high volume hourly wage work.
Mm.
Now, my nanny makes $25 an hour, like $80,000 a year. So she's making more than a Harvard graduate today.
Mm.
Right. So, there are some positions that, you're still making, that is an American dream. Someone who never got an advanced degree from Columbia, the country,
Yeah.
is making $80,000 a year. I mean, that's like, so there are some positions that are still a dream for people who want to do it. Like today, the guy who cleans my lawn and cuts my grass came by, right? A Mexican dude. He's created a business. He cleans all the yards and does all the leaves in the neighborhood. I calculated one time, I think this guy's making like $2 million. What he charges, and like, I think he's making $2 million. Like, and he's barely speaks English.
Yeah.
And he started like 5 years ago. Like, so the American dream for entrepreneurs at every level, in every space, there is not a better place in the world for that.
Hmm.
Being a doctor now sucks. Barely afford life. Being a lawyer sucks. Now, great. If you're a neurosurgeon, the top 10% of doctors. If you're the top M&A lawyer for an investment bank in New York, okay, they're still doing great. But the average lawyer, average doctor, average engineer, they're going to have a tough time. There's no American dream for them anymore. There used to be 50 years ago.
Yeah. For me personally, so I'm not sure. You have to apply for E2 visa, and there's quite a process. But it's hard. Like if I'm looking, Austria is highly regulated. Like the whole EU is highly regulated, and it's like it's in Austria, it's not allowed to write a cold email or cold call a company. And
countries like Switzerland and Austria, to be a startup entrepreneur, nightmare. Like, you, as an entrepreneur, if you know, and most people know if they're intelligent or not, right? You don't have to. Nobody has to take an IQ test. You know when you're doing podcasts, you're talking to people, you're meeting people. If you are above average intelligence and you have ambition and you have ideas and you know how to apply technology to those ideas, it might take 2, 5, 7 years. It's not I've been at it for 10 years, right? Like, so I failed for 9 of these 10 years, but it's going to pay out really well. And when it does, people are like, oh my God, he's rich. He did so well. It must have been so fun. No, it has been miserable for 9 years. I've never failed in my life. I went to Harvard. I went to Wharton. I turned Puma around. I worked at the fastest growing software company. Everything I ever did worked. This is the longest failure of my life. I haven't taken a salary in 9 years. Most people see the success, not the hard work journey getting there. That's the problem with like social media.
That point I can agree on. So also when I started my business, I worked at a company before, and it's like you don't have to think about many things. And then I saw on social media, on YouTube, on Instagram, like start your own business. It's really cool, and you have all that free, like the leisure time. But running a business is much different. Like it's mostly work, and you work on weekends, and you're always thinking about the next issue you have.
Yeah, it's the most exhausting thing. I mean, I'm working 60 hours a week. Earlier on, I was like 80, but then I knew that that wasn't sustainable. So like 4 years, I was working 8 hours a week without results. And I was like, okay, one, it only working 80 hours is okay if you're like crushing it. But if you're not crushing it, you're and then you become miserable in your personal life and you start to gain weight and you're not doing exercise, everything will unravel. And so
Yeah.
I pulled it back to 60 hours. I do not work after 12 noon on Saturday and Sunday.
Yeah.
Like I used to work every Saturday and Sunday full days.
Yeah, but people need balance. If the balance is off
Yes.
for too long, you get sick and you don't perform at all.
Yeah. I gained 50 pounds.
Yeah.
I've lost 25 of them. It's funny. It was easy to gain them in 4 years. Now it's been 3 years and I've only cut off 25. Like it's really tough.
Yeah. Nice. So to finish it up, where do you see Humantelligence going in the next 5 years? What's the vision for the future?
If it all goes as according to plan, we bring in the salesperson, we get about 2 million, we raise capital, we can now hire a marketing team, do lead gen, hire sales team, SDRs, scale, start speaking at conferences, and really dominate the market. We have a relationship with a top 5 consulting firm that is about to use our tool for all 600,000 employees internally. They're going to then also resell it through their talent consulting practice with 100,000 people selling for us by 2027. That should be a $5 billion practice. We would get about $1 billion of that. We would become as well known as Copilot. We'd become as well known as Grammarly. And every employee in the world at large enterprise, mid-sized and small companies will use the Humantelligence Ask Aura coach. And everyone will be happier at work, find jobs they like, have better relationships, turnover will go down, every team will work better, every company will make more money. Humantelligence will bring AI to everyone at work as the first AI journey that makes work more human. That's the vision, and I'm really excited about moving forward.
Awesome. If somebody listening wants to reach out or know more about Humantelligence and your products and services, where can they do so?
John.Betancourt at humantelligence.com, or they can go to our website, which is the askaura.ai website.
For sure. I will link it in the show notes. So if you want to reach out, feel free to do so and look in the show notes.
Thanks for having me, Anu.
Thanks, John, for this great interview, your story and your insights. I really enjoyed it. I wish you and Human Intelligence best of luck, and I'm rooting for you.
Thank you.
Thanks.